Without objection.
Mr. President, I just come to the floor having listened to the minority leader, the Democrat senator from New York, say something to the effect that he thought that President Trump's policies were not popular with the American people. And as he was saying this, I recalled a poll, a Harvard-Harris poll conducted just this past week. Trump's policies, key thing why he won election as President of the United States, huge popularity of what the President is doing today. Promises that he made prior to the election, promises kept now that he's in the White House. Let's take a look at number one. Deportation of illegal immigrants who've committed crimes. 81% of the American people, and that includes a lot of Democrats, say that is a very popular position taken by President Trump and now being enforced by President Trump. Eliminating fraud and waste in government expenditures. 76% of Americans agree. What have we seen happen with DOGE? What we have seen is actually pointing out fraud and waste in government. The American people are supportive. And then, of course, closing the border. Again, 76% of Americans, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, all across the board, support what President Trump is doing. President Trump ran for office against a party that was the party of high prices and open borders. And it's because of those things that President Trump won, and Republicans won the House and the Senate. So now the minority leader comes to the floor and says that what President Trump's doing aren't popular. Well, they sure are in terms of wasteful Washington spending and closing the border, which were the two reasons that President Trump and Republicans won the elections in November. So let's talk about the things that the American people care about. Republicans, President Trump, all of us promised to get America back on track. That's what we said we would do. That's what we are doing right now. We committed to cutting Washington's wasteful spending. We committed to reducing the size of a bloated government. This is going to make life more affordable for all Americans. President Trump and Republicans are now doing exactly what we promised we would do. We're rooting out waste, we're rooting out fraud, and we're rooting out abuse by a bureaucracy, all across a bureaucracy. And we are ripping it out root and stem. The Department of Government Efficiency has already uncovered more than $55 billion in savings. Who benefits from the savings? The American taxpayers. U.S. taxpayers were spending $2 million. I mean, you take a look at this list. $2 million to develop, quote, sustainable recycling models in the Balkans. Well, we've canceled that. U.S. taxpayers were spending $19 million on, quote, biodiversity conversations in Nepal. Well, that's been canceled. U.S. taxpayers were spending $47 million to improve, quote, learning outcomes in Asia. Canceled that. U.S. taxpayers were spending $1.5 million on, quote, voter confidence in Liberia, Africa. Well, we've canceled that. U.S. taxpayers were spending $21 million for voter turnout in India. Canceled. More savings are on the way. The Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Lee Zeldin, who we recently confirmed to that post, he uncovered $20 billion with a B, $20 billion in taxpayer money that the Biden EPA shoveled out the door on their last days before leaving office. This was a slush fund, and it was funneled to 8 left-wing climate groups. Now, all of this was in the service of the left's extreme, radical climate agenda, an agenda that makes energy more expensive and life less affordable for American families. So who received these taxpayer-funded, undeserved gifts? Anybody remember Georgia Democrat governor's candidate Stacey Abrams? Well, she was one of them. Her left-wing organization got a $2 billion kickback from the Biden administration. I'm so glad that Ambassador Zeldin caught this scam and is working to claw back the money for the taxpayers of this nation. Now, I heard the minority leader admit just this morning, he said, of course there's some wasteful spending. He didn't mention any of those things. He doesn't actually point out to what it is, but I don't hear him say what wasteful spending he wants to cut. In fact, I haven't heard any Democrats say what wasteful spending any should be cut. What about that $2 billion that's been sent to Stacey Abrams? Democrats added almost $5 trillion to our debt in 4 years. Joe Biden and Democrats' reckless spending caused painfully high prices. Look, cutting wasteful Washington spending has been long overdue. President Trump and Republicans are uncovering massive evidence of wasteful Washington spending, and we're stopping it. Democrats seem more upset that the waste they support is now being exposed than the massive waste itself. Instead of defending the indefensible and the obscene level of spending, what are they doing? What are the Democrats doing? They are demanding that the courts intervene. Hey, let's get the courts involved. This is the next chapter of destructive Democrat behavior. Democrats have now filed over 80 lawsuits in 1 month against the Trump administration. Now, often they go judge shopping. What are they looking for? They're looking for partisan activist judges. So how does that work? Well, last month, I mean, it's unbelievable. Last month, the state of New Jersey wanted to sue the administration. So they filed suit, not in New Jersey, but in Massachusetts. They sued in a district where 11 of the 13 district judges were appointed by Democrat presidents. They didn't think they could accomplish what they wanted to accomplish in their own home state, so they go to Massachusetts, one of the most liberal states in the country. That is not a coincidence. It's intentional. It's premeditated. What's the aim of it? It's to obstruct President Trump's popular cost-cutting efforts. Let me tell you how far the Democrats are taking this. Earlier this month, a federal judge in New York issued a knee-jerk order that forbids political appointees from accessing records within the Treasury Department. The judge actually went so far as to block the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, from accessing important data within the agency that he runs, that he has been confirmed to serve as the Secretary of Treasury by this very body, by the United States Senate. And you get a judge saying he doesn't have access to the Treasury records. So a federal judge blocks a Senate-confirmed Secretary of Treasury from getting the information he needs to do to run the U.S. Department of the Treasury. That's where the Democrats are headed. District courts should not get to micromanage the executive branch. Yet that's what Democrats want to do with the courts, and that's why they filed 80 lawsuits so far. It's not based on the law. It's not based on policy disagreements. This is based solely on political disagreements. This is the real crisis we're facing in America. It's what I hear about in Wyoming, heard about it this past weekend. It's the unelected, unaccountable, heavy-handed federal bureaucrats who have taken America off track. We're getting America back on track. The American people are being strangled by Washington's wasteful spending, by burdensome red tape. According to a poll last month from the Associated Press, almost 2 in 3 Americans say government inefficiency is a major problem. The bureaucracy must be accountable to the American people, and they are there to serve the American people. Americans voted in November for more accountability. They voted to drain the swamp. This is the swamp I'm talking about, and that's exactly what President Trump is doing. Working with President Trump, Senate Republicans are going to deliver on our mandate, and it's going to involve massive change in Washington, because it's time, Mr. President, to get America back on track. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.